Hello, everyone, and welcome back to A Theater Near You. I'm your host, Chris Randazzo, and I'm joined this evening, as always, by...
Wilfred Brimley's uncovered legs.
Sean Doyle. And...
a small Muppet that's not quite an Ewok that runs real fast.
Paul Giroux. That's me. I wanted to be Wilfred Brimley. I wanted to go, eat your damn oatmeal.
All right, let's try that again. I'm joined by Wilfred Brimley Buffalo Shot. Paul Giroux.
Listen, you little bear creatures. Oatmeal's good for you. Keep the diabetes away.
It was my pick this month for some reason, and we wound up, what did we pick? We picked this instead of Ernest, right? We watched Ewoks, The Battle for Endor. We actually just watched it, and, well, let's see how it stacks up. How you guys doing?
Oh, I'm living the freaking dream over here.
Do tell.
Well, I got things to get into.
Yeah, do it. Get into
All
it.
right.
Now let's get to work.
We're gonna skip a bunch of crap and go right to it. Get to the heart of the matter. I'm gonna start off big here. We talked about my mother a few weeks ago. She's a nice lady. Goes to church. Likes spending time with her kids. So for Christmas, me and my sisters, we decided we're gonna get my mom as part of her Christmas present. We're just taking her out for the day. Go out to dinner, see a movie. She'll love it. This was a perfect plan. So we take her to this place in Atlantic City, Nucky's. It's a fancier restaurant. Not like crazy fancy, but fancier. It's nice. And below Nucky's is a movie theater. And bonus for us, it's a movie theater you can drink at. So, beer while you watch the movie. Why not? You have to select a movie. There's 3 theaters there. Willy Wonka was playing. My mom wasn't very interested. Fine. The other 2 were Boys in the Boat and Poor Things. Now, at this point, I'm going to give a spoiler alert. My mom chose Poor Things. So if you haven't seen Poor Things...
Porn things?
Well, you know, if you haven't seen Poor Things, this is your warning. I'm going to talk about the movie for the next 3 to 5 minutes.
Sean.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the movie.
Yeah, you're... It's fine. It's fine.
you're SOL.
Not only you're SOL, but after I'm done talking, you're gonna be good with it.
I heard it was good.
It's up for a bunch of Academy Awards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we go in, and if you don't know the basic plot, it's like a Frankenstein situation. Only it's a girl, like it's a female Frankenstein situation.
Okay, sure.
All right, great. Played by Emma Stone, I think, if I'm not mixing up actresses. She's up for the Academy Award. We watched a brief preview to decide which movie, and this was the one my mother chose. It looked whimsical, had some cool set designs, had Mark Ruffalo. Who doesn't like Mark Ruffalo, right? The first 3-4 minutes of the movie, you get a little bit of Willem Dafoe, too, and that's nice.
Sure. It's always nice to get a little Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
I'd even take a lot of Willem Dafoe.
Yeah. He comes back in throughout the movie. He's good.
Is he Dafoe in the movie? Or is he Willem Defriend? Or is he Dafoe?
Oh, he's the creepy, but I guess he's the good guy. I don't know. But it's good. Yeah, I mean, he's good. So the first 3 or 4 minutes of the movie, we get into a scene where she, Emma Stone, this Frankenstein type-esque thing, which has an infant's mind, okay? She proceeds to masturbate a corpse, right? So I'm sitting in the movie that I took my mom to for Christmas. It's my mother, my sister's on either side of her. I'm sitting to the side of one of my sisters, and my brother-in-law Keith is there. So the 5 of us are there with my very Catholic mom. I think we picked her up from church. And she's not a crazy prude. It's fine that there's like a sex scene in a movie or whatever, but this is weird. This is weird. All right, a little uncomfortable, fine. A couple minutes go by. Emma Stone proceeds to have a 3 or 4 minute scene where she learns to play with herself. Fairly graphically. Okay, great. Still pretty awkward, but now we've moved past that, right? Okay, she's exploring her body. She's figuring things out. Fine, let's move on, right? Mark Ruffalo shows up. And when I tell you there's a 20-minute sex scene that's just montage of them really going to town on each other in every position that you can think of, right? I mean, No wrong answers. Get in there, really shuffle it about, you know? All right. So we get past that.
You should have just stayed home with your mom and read it Hell Comes to Frogtown.
It would have been less awkward. So now everybody's just like, no one will move. My sisters and me won't look at each other. I'm thinking about how many separate Ubers we're going to have to order to get home because I'm not getting in a car with them after this. Mark Ruffalo exits the movie and you think, thank God, we can move on, right? You get about 3 minutes after Mark Ruffalo and she joins a 19th century Parisian prostitute house. There's then a half hour of her getting fucked by increasingly upsetting men. Like, at first it's like a dude, then it's a dude who makes both his kids watch, then it's a fat guy, but like really fat, then it's a guy with like a hook hand, then Gollum comes in, and each one of them has to do her in a different way. And then, once we get through that half hour of the movie, and the prostitute lady that runs the place can't even get into that creepy relationship. Then she decides to be a lesbian, and there's just a lot of eating out for, some graphic. Let's get in on it, Then there's a little more sex and an abusive husband. All in all, it was like pro-pedophilia porn. I mean, just for 2 hours. So not only do I personally, I didn't love the movie. And if you took out all those parts, it still wasn't that great a movie. Mark Ruffalo was very good.
Sounds like if you take out all those parts, the movie's 15 minutes long.
Yeah, it was. But all I want is, I just want him to add a disclaimer, don't bring your mom. Like, the preview really didn't help to tell you, if you come here, you got 2 hours of Christmas porn. And that's probably not what you were looking for.
Mrs. Doyle, I don't know if you listen to this, but you messed up. Wonka was great.
Really missed the boat on that one.
It was a good movie. I liked it. I expected to, I don't want to say I expected to not like it, but like, I was kind of like, this could be bad, like this, like a Willy Wonka prequel thing. Like, nobody asked for this. But when it started, it's a musical. And when it started, the moment it started, and I heard the music and saw like the aesthetic of it, I was like, I'm going to love this. Like, Wonka was pretty good.
All right. They captured the original movie, but went with it. Like, because the original's a musical, and it's great. It's Gene Wilder.
Yeah. So I guess what I'll say is the main guy, Timothée Chalamet,
Uh-huh.
I don't know a lot about him, admittedly. I mean, I thought he was a great singer. I thought he was, I thought he was good. I think he gets kind of a lot of like a bad rap for kind of like being bro-y. Like, I feel like everything I've seen about him, like people kind of make fun of just his personality, but like he was great in it. The thing that was, how do I put this? The thing that was, not that it was bad. I think the only thing that was maybe just a little off about it is, I think part of what's great about Gene Wilder is how sort of like cynical he is, like the sort of like cynical, snarky humor. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, it kind of borders between like, is he this sort of
crotchety nut job?
Right. Is he a crotchety nut job, or is it an act because he has this wonderful candy shop for children? And that sort of mystery is what keeps you going with that character. I think the choice to dial down the cynicism with this was good because it's a prequel. It's like it's him beginning to be a chocolatier. So some of that stuff of where he gets to later in life, I think it was good that it was pulled back. But I think because of that, it didn't feel like the same character in some ways.
All right.
But yeah, no. All in all, it was a great movie. Like, you should watch it. It was great.
All right.
Did you see it, Chris?
What, Wonka?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
Okay.
I have not had the pleasure yet. I feel like it's going to come up in movie night picks eventually. But my movie night picks are kind of spoken for the foreseeable future.
Right.
Since we officially started the MCU. Was that all you guys had to go on? I thought there was going to be
I think there's a lot more.
I got other topics. That was it for porn things.
Well, I guess while you're talking about exposing your children to the MCU, and you're talking about things you shouldn't
exposing my mother to
yeah,
all
things
kinds
you
of
shouldn't have
things.
watched with your mother.
Uh-huh.
I will say that Chris, this is a thing that you have yet to experience yet. Like this is new turf for me. So I'm just telling you, it's a little strange. I've now watched a couple of R-rated movies with my son, and I think I guys told you about how over Christmas we watched Die Hard, right? that was the first that we decorated the tree. And we're like, let's watch a Christmas movie, and he's like, I know a Christmas movie. So we watched Die Hard. Like I said, no regrets about that. Then I decided I wanted to show him Terminator 2, and I was like, if I'm showing you Terminator 2, I think we should watch Terminator 1 first. Not that you need to see one to see the other, but I just think that when you watch those two movies together, they just complement each other so well in terms of like what they say about time travel and what they say about humanity. And, also, I mean, like, I think if you've seen the first one, it makes that scene in the hallway of the mall so much better when, the two Terminators are coming after him, and you're like, I mean, up until that point, you think Arnold's the villain,
Right.
Like, I wanted him to experience that. So we watched Terminator 1 first, and I was like, ooh, I didn't realize this had nudie stuff in it. I forgot about this. And so that was awkward.
Yeah, when you said it, I was like, T2's not too bad. I mean, there's a couple gruesome deaths, the mom with the milk and stuff, but it's not too bad. But T1 is different. Those movies, while I love them both, I saw them out of order, and it worked fine. It worked fine, but you're right, it probably is better in the correct order. But when you really step back, T1's more of a horror film.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously got the sci-fi elements to it. The story is, science fiction, but I mean, it's filmed, and when you're watching it, feels like a horror movie. Whereas the second one feels like an action sci-fi. Primarily, it feels like an action movie. Again, there's heavy sci-fi elements, certainly. Yeah. But it's two very different feels. Not unlike Alien 1 and Alien 2. The first one was a horror movie that I love, and the second one was an action movie that I love.
Yeah.
But yeah, Terminator 1's got nudie stuff, and it's a pretty hard movie. Like that's
it was violent, but I also think that there's a lot of 80s violent things that don't feel as crazy as stuff today, Yeah, I don't know. I think I hate to say it, but I think the nudie stuff was more of a shock watching it with my kids than the violent stuff. But yeah, he loved them. He wants to watch the rest of them, and I'm like, ooh, they're not good. We should stop here.
Now he's going to learn about disappointment. So.
Yeah.
Fair warning, it's all downhill from here. Well, we had an interesting movie experience this past Friday. So we do our weekly movie nights, and this was John's pick, and John has been. I'm not entirely sure where he really discovered the character originally, but he's been very interested in Godzilla recently. So we wound up, I talked to my friend Dan about what would be a good Godzilla movie to start him on, because, I didn't really go, obviously this is for family movie night, right? So Ellie's got to watch it too. So I didn't want to go fully all the way back to the first movie, because I feel like that would have bored the crap out of her too much. But he wanted something with a lot of action in it, and he doesn't necessarily care if the effects are super good. He just wants cool monster designs beating the heck out of each other.
So you went with 1998's Godzilla?
No.
Matthew Broderick? Godzilla
Sort
versus
of.
King Kong? That had some good fight scenes.
We wound up going with, at Dan's recommendation, 2004's Godzilla Final Wars.
Okay.
Which is it's a Toho one, and it's still rubber suit, but it's 2004, so there's some CG in there, including the Matthew Broderick Godzilla makes an appearance in that movie.
Oh.
They call him Zilla, I believe is his Japanese name. They just call it Zilla. It was terrible, but it was awesome. which is exactly how it was presented to us. So this movie, it had subtitles, and both the kids did fine with it, which was kind of my concern. That I wasn't sure how they were going to handle it, but they did. They were totally fine with the subtitles. So it starts off great. It starts off with just like, here's some kaiju battling going on. Good times are had by all. But then it gets talky for like an hour and a half, and the movie was about these aliens were invading the planet, and they had all these various like Godzilla kaiju monster enemies to dump on the planet. And then there were these like mutant people that were like superhero kind of people with some sort of superpowers, and they could ride motorcycles really fast. I honestly don't even know. I don't even know what the actual plot of this movie was. But by the end of it, it just turned into a, like, at the beginning of the movie, Godzilla was frozen. And then they were like, we need to unfreeze Godzilla to fight these monsters so that we can fight the aliens. And so they did. They unfroze Godzilla, and he beat up like everyone. It was kind of awesome. And I was kind of afraid that we were going to see, rubber suit Godzilla, and John was going to be like, okay, this is dumb. But he was totally into it. Once the action sequences happened, then he's like, Godzilla's like picking up monsters and throwing them around like a professional wrestling match. And he was fine with it. He thought it was super cool. And Ellie was following the plot, this completely ridiculous plot during the course of the movie about, like, she noticed that one of the people wasn't an alien because they didn't blink, and that was something they pointed out. I was like, wow, these kids are really enjoying this really stupid movie. This is kind of great. So I don't know where we go from here, because I wanted to show them, because I also saw Godzilla vs. Kong, but I wanted to show them, the lead ups to that. Not that you need to, but like, I was like, all right, well, what about the 2014 Godzilla movie? And I haven't seen that, but I'm told that one is even less, pretty not action heavy as far as like the actual Godzilla beating up stuff. I think you'd probably dig Godzilla vs. Kong, because that movie was a shit show, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, in these newer things, the 2014 one, and then the Kong Skull Island, and like I think they're all linear in terms of like the story they're telling. I just don't know if they're tooled in a way that kids can go, oh yeah, that guy, Cause,
I don't think they're going to care about any of the characters.
Because like
the one little girls in both the one little girls in both the Godzilla movie and the
second Godzilla movie.
The second Godzilla movie and Kong vs. Godzilla.
Right.
And then there's that other teenage girl that's in King Kong. It's been a minute.
See, here's the thing. I think I expected more cohesion as it went on. Because, like, you had that Godzilla 2014 thing. Then there was the Kong Skull Island thing that took place in the 70s. So you're like, this takes place before all this stuff. So then the next Godzilla movie, I assumed, would have some characters returning. But it was like all new people. And then as it went on, I was like, well, now I'm like investing in different people every time. But I just finished that TV show, that Monarch Legacy of Monsters TV show. Took a while, but it started tying stuff together from all the movies. And I was like, where was this the whole time? Where was this thing?
And that's the one with Kurt Russell?
Yeah.
I gotta go watch that.
Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell, who plays the younger version of him. And then at one point, I was like, this is really unreal. Well, can I ruin something? Can I say spoilers?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good.
Okay. I'm telling the world too, spoilers. At one point I was like, this is ridiculous, right? Because Wyatt Russell plays the version of him in the 40s, I think, right? In the 1940s. And then, the show is set, I think, in like 2015. So I think it was like a year after the Godzilla attack, the year after the movie Godzilla attack. So like, I'm like, like Kurt Russell should have been in his 90s, you know, like he's like running away from monsters and he's like jumping off things and whatever, you know, and then at one point somebody's like, wait, you're 90 years old? And he's like, yeah, I have good genes, you know, or something like that. So I was like, oh, this show. But then at one point you learn that the way that the monsters, which they call Titans, are traveling is through these like wormhole things, and like it seems like they're going underground, but they're really going to like a different dimension, and time works differently there. And at one point Kurt Russell goes in there in like, I don't know, the 60s, and like he comes out in the 1980s. So he just skips 20 years.
Right,
you know?
right.
So
then it's okay.
Yeah, like they thought it out. like it really did come together in some cool ways in the end. So,
all right, I'll give that a try.
All right, yeah, I started that show. We didn't get very far. We just watched the first episode. Been watching other things in its place, but yeah, John is in his Godzilla phase right now. So we'll see. We'll see where that takes us.
You should build little cities and let him trounce them.
I'm sure he wants to.
Wait, I got to step it back for a second because I'm curious about this. You said you started the MCU.
Yes.
What have you shown them so far?
All right, so I have my own personal order of the way.
This is part of the question.
Of course you do.
Of watching the MCU, because of course I do. So I believe that it has to start with Iron Man, because that was the first movie in the MCU.
Sure.
But I think that the second movie has got to be Captain America, because if you think about the the entire Infinity Saga, the two main characters are Cap and Iron Man.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So you introduce Iron Man, you introduce Cap.
Mm-hmm.
That way you're not watching two Iron Man movies back to back, and you're good to go.
Are you just ignoring the Hulk movie?
No, that is. Let me get my list out.
But you could ignore it.
You could,
but it introduces. I mean, first off, I love that movie. I think it's a blast.
Yeah, that was good.
It introduces Ross, who comes back. Also, eventually, if you get to She-Hulk, there's Abomination again, and Leader is going to be in the next Captain America movie.
Okay.
Who I absolutely love Tim Roth as Abomination, both in the movie and in the She-Hulk series.
Yeah.
So we started with Iron Man, then we did Captain America 2. The next one's going to be Iron Man 2, then Hulk.
Wait, did you say Captain America 2?
Yeah, but he meant Captain America.
Captain America, sorry. Iron Man, then Captain America. Then Iron Man 2, then Incredible Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Then that consultant one-shot we'll probably watch right before Thor. And then you get the Avengers. Hooray.
Well, then Thor, then the Avengers. But sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Consultant, Thor, then Avengers.
Right.
After that, for the most part, these kind of stay in release order, except one big move I make there with the second phase after the Avengers. We go Iron Man 3, Thor Dark World, the Agent Carter one-shot, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Age of Ultron, Ant-Man, Civil War, Black Panther, Spider-Man Homecoming, Black Widow, because that movie does not belong anywhere near Phase 4.
Sure.
No, it was ridiculous where they put it.
Completely doesn't make sense where that is.
I don't care what they say. Clearly there was some sort of issue that was clearly planned for much earlier.
Yeah, no doubt. Then Doctor Strange, Guardians 2, Thor Ragnarok, and from that point on, I think we're pretty well in order. Now, my concern now is that they have officially confirmed that the Netflix shows are canon, and I can't really show that to the kids.
Oh yeah.
No, you cannot.
They don't really work in the movie night situation either, because they're full multi-hour series.
Yeah, but you don't need them.
You don't need them.
You don't need to, which was a good move for all the TV shows. I know they're saying Shield's not canon now, but they can go fuck themselves. Don't tell me what to count. I'll count whatever the fuck I want. And especially those early Shields, they tied in so nicely with, like, they were doing it on purpose and doing a good job of
Lady
it for a
Sif
while.
showed up, and Nick Fury showed up.
And like,
and
it
honestly,
played off what
by the
happened in
end,
Cap 2.
They mentioned Thanos showing up and everything.
Right.
Like
And they kept isolating them, like sending them back in time, sending them forward in time, sending them to outer space, so that, like, they weren't stepping on the toes of what was happening. And then they were just like, you know what, never mind, it's not canon. And it just pissed me off. I was like, well,
Did
I hate
they ever officially say that, though?
Yeah, at one point they came out.
I don't remember seeing any sort of official confirmation that wasn't canon. When I was doing my last rewatch, I tried to make Agent Carter fit, and unfortunately, it just kind of doesn't. because of season 2 and the fact that it never got resolved. It just kind of doesn't really work.
Yeah.
I freaking love that show. Agent Carter was great, and I loved Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. And I think the only thing that bothers me in being able to even, screw you, I'll say it's canon all I want, is that there was never that moment where any of the Avengers got to find out that Phil Coulson was alive. And I feel like at all the points throughout the MCU with S.H.I.E.L.D. existing and everything, there should have been something. Like, there was no mention. Like, at one point, the friggin' Inhumans are all over the world, and this never comes up in the movies. Like, it just doesn't quite work.
And you know what my thought on that was? Because, right, the Inhumans pop up, and then you had that Inhumans TV series that popped in, and used some of it was tightly wound into that, to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They could have just, at one point, the S.H.I.E.L.D. team goes into the future. It's the future. And then they come back. And at that point, they could have just come back on an alternate timeline, because then the guy who plays Black Bolt in that TV series shows up in the movie.
And Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Right. So they could have just been in that timeline. So you could have tied it all together, and then nobody in the Marvel main 616 would have ever found Coulson, because he's trapped in another timeline.
Right.
But they didn't put in 2 seconds of work. 2 seconds of work.
Yeah, it really wouldn't have taken much to ultimately tie that in, but I don't know. We'll see. It's The Netflix shows are a little wonky too, because of the actors who have played various characters, especially since we've got Cottonmouth is going to be Blade.
Why are they doing that? There's a million actors in the world. Why would you pick one that's sort of already here?
Yeah.
Not that he did a great job. The guy was great at what he did in the Netflix series. But pick a different actor, god dang it. And then there was the Runaways 2 and Cloak and Dagger, and your kids might like those. I thought Runaways was really well done. It was clearly aimed at 12-year-olds.
Right.
So it wasn't really for me, but I thought they did a great job with it. And that tied in with Cloak and Dagger, which tied in with the Netflix ones. Just in little ways, like in the Cloak and Dagger one, he's reading a newspaper with Luke Cage on it and stuff, and it's the guy from the Netflix one. But then Cloak and Dagger cross over into Runaways at one point, or vice versa. I don't remember which way.
Well, I think they're doing an okay job of making things seem like they fit as much as they need to, right? I mean, the recasting actors thing is kind of an odd choice, but if it means that I get some closure to some of these Netflix series, that's great. Like, I'm glad Daredevil Born Again seems like it's going to be a good time. I really liked Echo.
I'm not finished with Echo. Don't spoil me.
Echo was
one
great.
I care about.
Echo was great.
Yeah, I was trying to think of something silly to spoil it with, but I just can't. No, Echo was a good time. I was very happy with that, and I'm glad that I was a little concerned with there was like a bunch of drama with people leaving Born Again and whatnot, because they were changing directions and whatnot. And it seems like the direction they've landed on is, never mind, the Netflix show is proper canon, let's get everybody back.
Yeah.
Which I like that. I prefer that. I think
I didn't know there was another option on the table. All the other options are stupid options.
I agree.
I'm not sure I have the whole information, but I think what happened was they started making it. The sort of shutdowns happened because of the writer's strike and all that stuff. And then they were kind of like, this isn't working. And I think it wasn't working because it didn't gel with the previous stuff. And now they have those actors back that played Karen Page and that played Foggy.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were like, how do we make this without these characters? So yeah, it sounds like it's much better now.
It sounds like it's moving in the right direction. It sounds like all of the Marvel stuff is moving in the right direction. That they seem to have learned the lesson that they learned from Star Wars already. I'm not sure why they needed to learn it again. That if you can't just pump out constant content, because then it makes it less special, and you don't have the resources to make everything as good as it should be. So with everything slowing down, I'm hopeful that it's all going to be moving in the right direction. I haven't disliked any of the Marvel projects. I will say that Secret Invasion was a bit of a letdown, but I still enjoyed my time with it.
I enjoyed it too. I agree in that it was a bigger thing in the comic, but like they took a big thing and made it small.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the small thing they gave me.
Yeah.
but it feels like they took a big storyline and kind of.
Well, while we're talking about the direction that they're going in, because to a certain extent, there's some of this conversation I can't key in on because I didn't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, heard it was good. I think in the beginning when I started watching it, I couldn't get into it, and then everybody's like, you didn't watch it long enough. And I was like, no. But yeah, in terms of where they're going, I don't really think we've talked about this whole thing with Kang.
So I'm not so worried about that. Really, they've of all the guy was doing a great job in the role, but of all the characters to have to replace, Kang doesn't have to look the same. In fact,
we've already seen that
a lot, right? So the Kang that shows up doesn't have to be the same actor. Like that's not. It's fine.
That does seem to be the rumor anyway, that they've there's been a couple of rumors of recasting Kang.
We've seen him.
Well, that guy got in trouble for domestic violence or drugs or something. I don't know, but Disney's not going to work with him.
Yeah.
He got convicted for domestic violence.
All the way, yeah.
Right. Yeah, but of all the actors to have to replace, that one just works.
He's a multiversal villain. I mean, if Loki can be a friggin' alligator, Kang doesn't have to look like Jonathan Majors.
Oh yeah, I guess. Like we've seen different versions of Kang. Mm-hmm. We haven't seen any that weren't played by Jonathan Majors, though, right?
No, we did in that last scene of
Quantumania, right?
Was it Quantumania that we saw the whole Council of Kangs? You saw
they
like 100,
all kinds of different.
One of them looked like an alligator man, and one looked like I don't remember what they were, but they all look completely different,
right?
So you don't. That's fine.
Yeah, that's easy. And like they with the last season of Loki, they seem to have wrapped up that specific flavor of Kang's story. So I don't think it's a problem at all. Actually,
what would help them and make this feel more purposeful is if, like, because I know he's supposed to show up in, I think the two movies that are slated are Kang Dynasty and
Secret Wars.
Mm-hmm. Like, it'd be cool if he showed up once or twice more before them, and each time he was a different actor.
Yeah,
then it would really,
right?
Then you really hit it home.
Right.
Yeah, I'm into that. I'm into all of it. I'm excited, and I want to see where they're going with. I want to see where they're going with mutants. I want to see where they're going with Fantastic Four. I think Pedro Pascal's a weird choice for Mr. Fantastic, but I
don't know why they didn't stick with Kaczynski. I thought that was fun. He looked good.
He did look good. There was a big problem with. I had a big problem. The same problem a lot of people had with that scene where he's supposed to be the smartest man in the world, and he just tells Wanda exactly how Black Bolt's gonna kill her.
Right.
Like, I don't think the smartest man in the world would have made that mistake.
But that's not his fault. That's a writing problem.
Yeah, that's a writing problem. Yeah. Yeah, I think Krasinski was great in that role. But
everyone saw the Marvels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm not really doing a spoiler. I just watched it when it popped up on Disney. I didn't catch it in the theater. It's like one of the first ones I didn't catch in the theater. I thought it was good. It was a very good movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it start to finish. Here's what I will say about it. Other than the post-credit scene, it didn't feel like it moved the plot along at all. Because I've already been introduced to these three characters. I like the Miss Marvel series on Netflix, and we already knew Rambeau from a couple different things already. Mm-hmm. So it didn't introduce any characters. It introduced a villain that it then eliminated. So it just felt like, which I guess might not be the end of the world, but one of the great things all the Marvel movies up to this point had going for them is not only was it a nice little standalone story, but it pushed forward the overarching plot.
Right. Even if it was in some sort of small way.
Right. This felt just like it was just here's a story. Mm. And they did a good job with it, and I enjoyed it, but it lacked that grandeur of adding to the universe, except for the one little tack-on scene at the end, which might be very important, but it was just a tack-on scene that was 2 minutes long in the middle of the credits.
I guess I can kind of see that. I kind of liked how insular it was, because one of the things was that all the movies didn't need to move the plot forward that much. Like they were very subtle about moving things forward as far as the overarching storyline. And then when you got to see like the big Avengers movie or like Civil War, you could see more of how those pieces were going to fit together. And so I felt like the MCU was kind of getting itself bogged down in all of this. We've got to make this big overarching plot that we have to move forward thing, and that this movie was slightly more insular, but at the same time, the big thing at the end. I thought it was a neat way of handling it, and I was
what it
very
felt
entertained
like?
by it.
It felt like a lot of the TV series are insular because they want to make it so you don't have to watch the TV series. So when I was watching this movie, I felt like I was watching the TV series, which again made me feel like it lacked the grandeur of the movies. The TV series are what fill in the time between the movies for me. It's like, all right, here's something to get by on until the icing on the cake comes.
Right, except like WandaVision was a pretty important deal, and so was Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like, now that was the establishing a new Captain America. And
but if you didn't watch it, I think you start the new Captain America movie and you're not missing it, right? Like at the end
because Cap hands him the shield.
Yeah, at the end of Endgame,
yeah.
he hands him the shield. He's like, you're the new Cap, right? So you that's the reality. It's just you happen to miss the show that developed it in between.
Right. Secret Wars, I think, that one's going to be a little tougher to explain, especially because of Rhodey. But
I think the thing that you're explaining, Sean, about Marvels is kind of the way I felt about it. I liked it too. I liked it a lot. I'm having a harder time remembering now because it was quite a while ago that I saw it. I can't remember when it came out, but like I remember feeling like, and also there was all the people that were like critic bombing it and hating on it before it even came out. Like where it had its work cut out for it because there was people that were already being weird, and then it was like oh least successful one, blah blah blah, and it's like, well, like as opposed to what
as opposed to the 10 movies that are on like the top 20 grossing movies of all time.
What is your litmus for success? But anyway, I really liked it. I mean, I think of the newer stuff, it was one of the better ones. I think my criticism was wanting more of the other characters that weren't Captain Marvel, to be more developed before that point, because we were introduced to Monica Rambeau in the first Captain Marvel, but then really we
got a little in WandaVision.
Yeah, we get what we get. Well, getting her to that point was done in WandaVision, and then the other character, Ms. Marvel, was totally introduced in a TV show. So it's like, I think I just wanted more stories with them before that movie. You know what I mean? Like I wanted all of them to have been given more equal time and development, that then all three of them come together. Like I felt like some of that was glazed over a little bit just so you could get to the part where they were all switching powers.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was just okay, if you watched these things, here's the next step of that. And if you didn't, then we're still going to give you everything that we need to, so you can enjoy this. I wish we had gotten another movie in between, I guess. That's all.
Right. I can see that.
those post-credit scenes were pretty interesting, though. The setting up Young Avengers and the...
I forgot about the setting up Young Avengers one. I was just thinking about the other one.
Right. I'm still not sure what to make of that other one.
Oh, because the other one wasn't a post-credit scene. It was just at the end.
Yeah, right. That was a pre-credit scene or whatever.
Right.
Her... Because I loved that Hawkeye show, and I thought that
oh yeah,
Kate Bishop is such a fun character. So I'm really really into all that. But yeah, the other one, I don't know what to make of that. I feel like there was a lot of talk of it being a huge deal of how it's introducing the X-Men. I'm like, I don't think that's how they're going to introduce the X-Men into the MCU. Like, that's a whole other universe you're in right there. I don't think they're going to like pluck pre-established X-Men characters and put them in our universe. But then again, what do I know?
I don't know. I don't know.
I hope they do it more organically, because I like that they set up Miss Marvel at the end of Miss Marvel, suggesting that she's a mutant. And I like that, setting it up organically, because if you're going to do X-Men, if you're going to keep the MCU going for another 20 some odd years, start young. Don't bring a bunch of established older actors in and then have them age out of the roles. Like,
oh, they'll age out. I mean, they're already aging out.
yeah.
Kelsey Grammer has the benefit of blue paint.
Well, he was all CG in this one, so.
Was it just CG?
yeah.
I don't even know.
He was just standing there for like a minute, but still,
I don't think it sets anything up. I think it's the same. I think it's the same Easter eggs that we've gotten for 3-4 movies now. We saw Patrick Stewart in the Doctor Strange movie. We saw that guy that played Quicksilver in WandaVision. Like, I think they just want to say, we own these now, and
they're just pissing on their property,
and they exist in a different continuity. And at some point, we'll address this.
I think Deadpool 3 is addressing it. Have you guys seen that trailer?
Yeah.
The one where he's like sitting there talking to Wolverine on the couch?
There's a new one that
just went
came
on during
out.
the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh,
yesterday.
no, I didn't.
I mean, there is a point where, well, the TVA gets Wade, right? So we have the TVA from Loki comes and gets Wade, and there's a point in the trailer where they're fighting in front of the 20th Century Fox logo, like that it's destroyed in the background. It's a giant 20th Century Fox logo, and they're having some sort of fight in front of it. Something's going on with this movie. It's going to be very interesting. He might very well, as he says in the trailer, be Marvel Jesus. So we shall see. I'm excited. But all right, I guess we should probably start talking about Ewoks or something. But you guys have more to talk about, right? Because we just
sure
started.
do.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
We got more.
Take care of some business.
Do it, Sean.
You did a deep dive on Ernest?
I did.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think I did as deep a dive as you. So this started because as I said last time, my plant of putting Ernest Goes to Camp in there twice was because I really wanted us to choose Ernest Goes to Camp because I remember it being the best one. And then, because I was like, I'll just watch this. I'll watch this, just so that I did it before next time we record. And then I went to find it, and you couldn't find it.
Couldn't find it anywhere.
Couldn't find it anywhere. Like Amazon had the thing for it, but it was like not available. Just like when we tried to look for Zapped.
And did that lead you down the rabbit hole of Disney?
Oh, how did you find it?
I didn't find that one.
Okay.
Disney owns Ernest.
Yeah.
But for
all
some
of
reason,
Ernest or just the first 4 movies?
Well, for some reason, the only one on Disney Plus or whatever the Disney streaming service is Disney Goes to Christmas. Ernest Saves Christmas, Ernest Fights Christmas, whatever. That's the only one on there.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I could tell in my limited research, trusting untrustable sources, Disney bought it out. They own it.
Oh, okay. All the Ernests. Got it.
They only produced the 4 movies.
Yeah.
But then I think they own I think they own the character.
Yeah. Or maybe it was like Touchstone, and then Touchstone was bought by Disney.
Something like that. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I couldn't find it anywhere. And then I started to worry. Like, this is a weird thing to be worried about, but I was like, what if I never get to see it again? And then I contacted Evan, and I was like, dude, this is weird, but like, it's really weighing on me heavily that I might never see this movie. And he was like, I got you. And then the next thing I knew, all the Ernest movies were on the Plex. And I was like, thank you.
All of the Ernest movies?
All of them, yeah.
Because this is the other part of the deep dive. Then I was like, maybe I should just watch the first one. What's the first one? So then I started looking into it. And then, in checking things out, if you didn't already know this, Ernest was a comedian. He came up in like stand-up clubs with like him and Robin Williams knew each other. Like they both started at the same club. There's like some video of like them joking around together.
Do you actually know the like history behind the character?
Well, this is where I'm going.
Okay, go.
So he develops this character and he starts selling it for commercials. And it started with like local like car dealerships, like, Atlantic City Nissan or whatever the hell it was. And then his manager just kept getting him bigger and bigger spots. And then he did that whole run of like Sprite ads and Mellow Yellow and
Yeah, I think it was an advertising company that put together these spots for lots of different things. Like if you were, Bob Johnson Toyota or, whatever it was, you would contact this ad company and then they would put together something, and these Ernest things were part of their marketing package. But then I think he did get 3 like national
commercials. Yeah, and one of them was Sprite, and I remembered them once I saw him. It was like he's walking by the window, he's like, "Hey Vern, look, I got this new Sprite," and then the window slams on his fingers, or he's like comes up a ladder. You're always in that Vern position. You're always looking at him. He's talking at the camera as if you're his buddy Vern.
The audience is Vern. I think usually Ernest was doing some sort of home handyman thing for Vern.
Right, Vern would be working on an air conditioner, be like, "Oh, you got to do it like this," and he'd pretend to get zapped or whatever.
Because some of those commercials, what they sold were, hardware store things or something like that,
Sure.
right? So yeah, you were always Vern. It was always point of view camera thing. Sometimes you'd see the camera shake, like Vern was shaking his head,
right.
no, or whatever. And then, you got the idea that Vern really didn't like Ernest very much.
And then, so from what I found, what happened was they had so many non-compete stuff. Like he would do a car dealership, and then he was like screwed from doing other car dealerships. He would do like one brand of ice cream, like he did like, I don't think it was Core Brothers, but it was a bigger brand of ice cream that I'd heard of before. But then it's like, okay, well now we're stuck out of that field. And basically his manager was like, well, I can't figure out anything else for us to do because we got all these non-competes against ourselves now. Like we can't do Pepsi because we're doing Sprite.
Right.
So let's just make a movie. And the first thing they released was direct-to-home video, and it was just a collection of the commercials. And people were buying it. And then they released a second movie, which was just a second collection of commercials, but there was a $10,000 prize for like someone who could count the number, know what it means, that he said during the whole thing and sent it in.
Was one of these movies called Dr. Otto and the Gloom Beam?
No, that's the next one. So the next one was Dr. Otto and the Gloom Beam, and I went and watched that steaming pile of crap.
I only got like a half hour into it.
Oh, God, it was bad. It was so bad. It was like, it wasn't even... It was clearly childish humor. It was for kids. Fine. I can respect that.
So this is an Ernest movie?
So
he's not distinctly Ernest in the movie. He's a bunch of things.
Got it. Okay.
Right. So this bad guy, this guy with his hand on his head, is trying to destroy the Earth's economy, and he keeps jumping into this coffin that makes him come out as a different person. So then that comedian, he will dress up like a different, he was like a pirate guy, and then he was like a westerny guy, and then he was a rich guy, whatever it was, right? And then at the end, he gets in the coffin and comes out as Ernest, and the coffin, I think, is lost to him or something. So he's stuck as Ernest, and now that's the character of Ernest. That might be Ernest's origin story, I think.
Yeah, I should have watched it till the end.
I didn't know this. I didn't know there was lore involved. I've never seen anything Ernest, so this is a...
So I grew up on like the Christmas special, the Halloween special. I think I saw Goes to Camp. I don't really remember that one.
Man, let me tell you, Ghost to Camp was great. So I watched 4 of them. I watched Ghost to Camp. I watched Saves Christmas. I watched Scared Stupid, and I didn't watch this time around Ernest Goes to Jail, but I saw it like 3 or 4 months ago. Like I've seen it recently enough that I remember it. So yeah, I watched about 4 of them before we recorded, and man, Ernest Goes to Camp is the best one. It's so good.
I remember loving Scared Stupid. It's been a minute, but I still quote Fresh Miak on a daily basis.
Scared Stupid, like all the 4 I watched were good. I think they go downhill after that. I tried to watch Slam Dunk Ernest, and that was a rough start, but. Those 4 are pretty fun, but I have to say, Goes to Camp. I'm not wrong in saying that it was my favorite. Like it was fun. It was funny, and one thing I realized about those 4, Goes to Jail is a little differently. I think there's a kid somewhere in it, but really it's a lot of. I think really the hook with Goes to Jail is that he plays those 2 characters. He's Ernest, and then he's the
villain that's supposed to be in jail.
Yeah, the guy in jail that looks exactly like Ernest.
Right.
The like mafia guy or whatever he is. But the other three are really centered on kids. Like the co-stars are kids. And I'm like, this is what's successful about him, is that he is this like weird, lovable, childlike dude who's like, helping these kids win back the camp or defeat the troll or whatever it is.
Save Christmas.
It's like Goes to Camp was amazing. And all the like there was stuff where I sort of forgot a little bit about it, and then I remembered, and I'm like, oh yeah, like he's got that pet turtle, and the turtle keeps biting him on the nose.
Right.
And then like
I did see that one, yeah.
There was those two guys that were in those first four movies as like different weird parts, and in Goes to Camp they're the mess hall guys, and they keep making these machines that like fire spaghetti and stuff like that. Yeah, it was great. And then at one point, out of nowhere, there's just a musical number. Like Ernest just starts singing, right? Like it's about like something sad happens, and he just has this like song about like he's sad and he thinks it's gonna rain today. And I was like, where did this come from? like none of this rest of this movie was like this. So I absolutely loved it. My wife starts rolling her eyes when I put it on. Like she's like, "Ugh, we're doing this," and I'm like, "Yeah, we're watching this, right?" She laughed regularly that night. I'm like, oh, didn't like the movie? Seems like you were laughing a lot. And she's like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, it's brilliant. Come on.
Slapstick is slapstick. You want to sit here and say the Stooges aren't funny, you're a fool. They are. Is it the highest brow of humor? No, but it's silly faces, and it's probably cheap humor, but it's humor nonetheless, and he does it really well. And in looking up about him, it seems like he was just like a super nice guy too, like the real life person.
Yeah.
Who's just like a good person who just like, there wasn't any, like I didn't find anything, there's nothing shocking about him. He got cancer, he was a smoker. He stopped smoking when he got the cancer, but it was too late, it got him.
And you could hear that he was a smoker.
Yeah.
Like you listen to that character and you're like, you smoke a couple packs.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the most scandalous thing about him, is that he was a smoker, and it's like, it sucks. What are you going to do about that? But doing Make-A-Wish stuff, like when he was real popular, just like constantly going to hospitals and seeing kids and stuff, and just like everybody was like, "Yep, super nice guy."
Yeah.
So
I didn't get far in my deep dive. I mean, I think I got far enough. I don't know that I want to watch all 8 movies, and I suspect that they.
Oh, and it was 8 movies, not counting those first couple that I said that were direct-to-video. Then there was one more direct-to-video one that I watched, which was called Hey Vern, Look, It's My Family Album.
Was that like a TV show? Or is it a movie?
I think it was a direct-to-video.
Okay.
I think it was direct-to-video. It seemed like maybe it was a TV special. It certainly did not go to the movie theater, I'll tell you that. It was not good. But I could tell what it was. It was basically him, and then like he'd climb up the ladder. He'd be like, "Hey, Vern, look, this is my great uncle." Blah blah blah. And it was just him trying out different characters, because then it would go into a scene of like, his mean old uncle from the 1910s. So it was just him workshopping characters, but it clearly wasn't ready to be put out. It was like, dude, these are all just like. These are characters we ended up seeing later in those other movies once they were better refined.
Well, and that in fact was the thing that I thought what was most brilliant about some of them. He didn't really do any of these characters in Goes to Camp. Goes to Camp was just, a sweet little movie about him trying to save the camp. I'm gonna full transparency. I keep saying it's the best one. I will say there's a little bit of cultural appropriation in it, because like it's a camp run by a like Native American chief, and like there's definitely this like Indian warrior undertone things, and you find out at the end that like Ernest is worthy of being a warrior, and you're kind of like. Like maybe this is why it was lost to time, but I still stand by the fact that that's the best one. But then in Scared Stupid and in Saves Christmas, which I just watched this morning, he plays a bunch of these different characters. And in Scared Stupid, it's a little weirder because it's like it's almost like a montage of these characters in his head. You know, like they'll start doing an action thing, and it'll just, you know, he'll be like the bombardier guy, and he'll be like, we'll bomb them over here, and then it'll be like the old lady, and it'll be like, oh no, you know. But in Saves Christmas, it was so brilliant the way he used these characters, because like
he'd become the snake wrangler
Yeah,
guy,
the
and
snake-
that was his way to sneak onto the
yeah,
lot.
and at one point he pretends to be the I don't know, the assistant to the mayor or something.
Oh,
Like
right.
he just keeps using these disguises to you know, to save Christmas. And I was like, this is amazing. This is your skill, and this was the best way to integrate it into this movie. And they did the Vern thing in that movie too. He goes to visit Vern.
Vern just slams the door on him.
Yeah, well, he's like putting the Christmas tree up in Vern's house, and it
Pulling
falls
the
over,
cord.
and he's pulling the lights out of the wall.
Yeah.
Like that movie seemed to successfully tie in everything from his comedy and like make it a movie. Like, I think you were only going to capture that once or twice. Like, you weren't going to be able to pull that off for 9 movies, you know?
But they were gonna try.
Well, while you guys were talking, I looked up several ranking lists of Ernest movies, and I'm sorry to say that Ernest Goes to Camp did not top any of the ones that I found.
It is the best one. Okay, read your list.
All right, so this one, there do seem to be some constants here. So this one is from Medium.com.
Mm-hmm.
At the bottom is Ernest Goes to Africa. That seems to be what everyone considers the worst one.
I
didn't
believe it.
see that one, but I can only imagine that it's
believe it.
really offensive.
Yeah.
Number 12, Ernest in the Army. Number 11, Dr. Otto. Number 10, Hey Vern, It's My Family Album. Number 9, Ernest Goes to School. Number 8, Slam Dunk Ernest. Number 7, Ernest Goes to Splash Mountain and Your World as I See It.
Oh, that sounds like it was a direct marketing thing for Disney.
It was indeed.
Yeah.
Number 6, Ernest Rides Again. Number 5, Hey Vern, It's Ernest.
Yeah, so that's all the really bad ones. Now you've got the 4 that are actually good.
Yep.
Number 4, Ernest Saves Christmas.
Okay.
Number 3, Ernest Goes to Jail.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Ernest Goes to Camp. And number 1, Ernest Scared Stupid.
I mean, look, I'll buy that. Like,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, those are the 4 good ones.
like,
Yeah, that seems to be the
you put
the
those
constant.
4 in any order on top, and you've got a valid
Yep.
list.
I
Yeah, that seems to be the
100%
way it's
agree.
going. That
Those
it's just
4
those
are the
4.
top 4. I will accept Scared Stupid as the top one, considering it's a thing that we both always quote. And the
Except
Witch.
Looper here that puts Ernest Scared Stupid like pretty low. This one they don't have numbers, so like the top one here is Goes to Camp. Okay, so this one has Goes to Camp as the top one, but then Saves Christmas, then Slam Dunk, then Scared Stupid.
That guy's on crack.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah, I was shocked at how much I loved Saves Christmas, because it had been a while, and I was like, wow, this is really good. Scared Stupid, I remembered how much I loved, but like watching that, I was like, oh my gosh, this has real people in this movie. Like, the witch is played by Eartha Kitt.
Right, yeah, that was probably towards the very height. Like, that was after the first 2 movies that were kind of a success. He knocked out 2 more, and at that point, I think they had enough gravitas. They were like, we can pull in some actual people. Will be
Yeah.
in this movie now.
Yeah.
Because those first couple movies, it's the same actors over and over. Like, it's those 2 guys,
Yeah,
but then
it's
some
2
of the
guys,
other people
yep.
too. I mean, they've always got to get fresh kids in because kids age out. But
Right.
you see a lot of the same faces just wandering through the one girl. I don't know her name. She was a shorter black female, and she had short hair. The couple things I watched, she kept showing up. Like, she was in just about it. Like in Dr. Otto, she was one of the main characters. She was the sidekick to the dumb guy, the dumb good guy in Dr. Otto.
Okay.
His sidekick. She kept showing up in everything. She played the animal control person in Saves Christmas that come in.
Yeah.
It was a pair. She was one of them.
When where the reindeer are all
On
on the
the roof.
ceiling, and they're like, "Ooh, you don't want animal control, you want air traffic control."
We gotta go. Right. That girl, she was in just like all of them, I think.
Oh,
Speaking of sidekick characters, I don't know why that reminded me of this, but did you hear that Mojo Nixon died?
Mojo Nixon. I didn't hear that he died. Why? How do people hear? What do you do on the internet? I don't know how to internet, but everybody else just hears things and then they tell me. But like, what are you doing?
Well, apparently Stephen King was a Mojo Nixon fan.
No, go back and explain to me the internet. Start with the birds and the bees.
I can't explain the internet. I don't understand it.
You're finding out information. God dang it.
Well, I know Mojo Nixon from Punk Rock Girl. That's pretty much all I know of Mojo Nixon. Except now I know the reason that I found out about it was that it was being posted in a lot of the Nintendo news that I follow. Because Mojo Nixon played Toad in the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah, in fact, I just went to the IMDb page because I was like, I have no idea who you're talking about. And the picture listed for him is this. Oh, sorry. This is a podcast. It's not a visual medium. It's it's this awful alligator monster creature from Super Mario Brothers movie.
Those were the Goombas in the Super Mario Brothers movie. Which makes no sense because the Goombas are supposed to be mushrooms, but that whole movie is flawed for numerous reasons. But yes, Mojo Nixon played Toad in the live-action Super Mario Brothers movie.
Here's to you, Mr. Mojo Nixon.
Store could use some fixing. All right. Well, I guess we should start talking about the Ewoks.
Well, why start now?
I had like lots more. I got a couple quick ones.
All right, hit us with some quick ones while I look up information on the Ewoks.
2 months ago, I told a story about the Christmas thing when my mom saw the movie. I gave the wrong name. It's not the gift, it's the wish. Or no, I said the wish. It's not the wish, it's the gift. My little sister corrected me when she heard it. And I just finished Smallville. I had watched up to season 9 originally, like back in the day. Then I lost track of it. Found out it was only 10 seasons. Figured I should finish it out. So started back from the beginning because I didn't remember it. Sat there and watched all 10 seasons to go, it was all right. Kind of a waste of my time. And I had it on in the background like while I was doing work. It was still kind of a waste of my time. They really they did a lot of things right and just wouldn't give you what you wanted. There was like that one episode in like season 6 where they really did, maybe it was 5, whatever. They like, every now and then they would give you what you want for a split second. You're like, maybe they figured it out. Like, just do this. Do like the comic book. And then they'd be like, all right, so we gave you that one episode where he teams up with Aquaman and Flash and it was cool for a minute. And now we're going to give you 5 episodes where turns out Lana Lang is a witch from the 1600s. Why not?
Okay.
What are you talking about? And then at the end, they kept teasing like they were going to get everybody together to fight Darkseid. And he was just like, I am the symbol of hope. And Darkseid dies. Like there was no big fight. And like, they just kept finding reasons why he wouldn't get help from his friends. And the Lana Lang one was terrible. She becomes like a Superman that's full of kryptonite, so they can't be in love and touch anymore. And she's like, so I'm going to leave now. But like she says it to him from like 10 feet away. It's like, we can't work together. And like when the world's going to fall apart, they don't even think to call her to come like help. She's like got all of his powers. She is Superman. She just has to stay 10 feet away from him. But they're like, nope, dead to us. Like, why? Why can't she help from 10 feet away?
I never got into Smallville. It didn't do it for me. And I feel like going back to watch it now, like you said, would just kind of be a waste of my time. Kind of like if I ever wanted, I remember really enjoying like Flash and Arrow and I really enjoyed those shows, but I don't think I'm ever going to go back and watch them again.
Yeah.
It's a commitment. We would need another pandemic for me to rewatch them now.
Yeah.
I think Arrow started falling apart when that, Suicide Squad movie came out in the theaters because I feel like that's what season 4 of Arrow was going to introduce. Like they had a couple of Suicide Squad episodes, and I think the spin-off show they were going to make was Suicide Squad. Like I think they had that Captain Gold and Heatwave guy, and they're like, we're hey, stick around for this Flash show, and then we're going to put you in the Suicide Squad show, and then DC was like, no, we're making a movie. You can't do that. And then they
stuck them in
Legends of Tomorrow.
Which, like, they were great, but admittedly, they didn't belong on that show.
I'm sure we talked about this on there. I watched those all in order, back to back to back, like during, like when pandemic hit and I was just trapped in the house. It was like, I never once watched Flash or Arrow or Legends of Tomorrow or Black Lightning or Supergirl, or there was like 2 or 3 others, Constantine. And I was like, Just going to watch them all in order.
Oh man, you must have been glued to your couch
For like a
Wow.
month because the courts were closed. I had nothing to do. I was literally watching 10 hours a day, especially because Jacqueline's job didn't shut down. So like she just needed me to leave her alone for 8 hours while she worked.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, I'm clocking in 8 hours of this DC show every day for a month. I got through it all.
Wow.
All the way up to Infinity Crisis, which it was a pretty good payoff. Infinity Crisis. I enjoyed what they did there. And that's it. I'll never watch any of them ever again. I didn't even follow through with them. Like Arrow was over at that point, but like Flash had another season after that I didn't watch.
Yeah,
It was like-
I think I stopped it around the same time.
Yeah, me too. I didn't see them through to the end, and I'm okay with that.
Did you get to Infinity Crisis?
We didn't get to it, but we watched some of it, I think. Like, we at least watched all the cameos and whatnot.
It was good.
Yeah, it was neat.
It was good. The Batgirl show was a little weird, but I only had to sit through one season of that before Infinity Crisis happened. So.
Yeah, samesies.
The Constantine show might have been the best one. I really enjoyed that, and that got canceled fast, and then they just brought him back in Legends.
Well, that wasn't originally on. That wasn't part of the CW stuff at first. I think that was on network television for a
Right.
while. That's probably why that one didn't stick around.
And I think it was just everybody liked that guy.
So
and
they brought him back as
Yeah.
Constantine. Yeah.
Right. And then there was that weird animated one that I had to watch because, like, it tied in.
It was like Vixen or something.
Was that what I can't remember what it was now,
Or
but
like
there was
The Ray.
Yeah, no,
I forgot that happened, but it did.
yeah,
And there was that Stargirl show too.
Oh man, I tried to watch that Stargirl show. The weirdest thing about that is like, it was like time didn't make sense. Like you didn't know when it was happening. Like I think it was supposed to be like now, like the 2018 or whenever it started airing. But like all the cars looked like they were from the 50s. Like it was a confusing show.
I didn't have to watch that one. That started the season after Infinity Crisis. So I didn't watch it. But the cartoon one I did watch, it was all right. It was just weird that they did it animated and then brought the character into the live action show. All right. I got through most of what I wanted to get through. You want to talk about this Ewok movie?
Well, it certainly was a movie that happened.
Was this... I didn't even ask. Was this... Oh, you're going to give a spiel?
Yeah, let me just
You know what? Can I say this about the Ewok movie? I think it was better than I expected it to be.
Oh yeah, same here.
I mean, it was better than the Christmas special by leaps and bounds.
Well, that's
And I
low
think,
bar.
and like I can't remember when the last time I watched this Ewok movie was, but when these things showed up on Disney Plus, I think I was like, oh, like I gotta do this, you know. And I think I maybe tried to watch the other one, the Caravan of Courage one, and I think that was worse than this. I think. They might have learned a couple things because, like, I seem to remember that Caravan of Courage one started, and like the first couple minutes of it was just Ewoks, like just 3 Ewoks, sort of doing like a Stooges thing, and then they try to fly a glider, and then they crash into some goats or something. Like it was one of those things where it's like you're all talking some Ewok language, and I don't know what's happening.
So it was a poor man's 2001.
Yeah. But I'm not saying this thing we watched was brilliant, but I think it was better than the other one. It was, you could at least
Like Chris said, it was a movie.
Yeah.
I
It was a movie.
can't fight them. It was coherent.
Yeah, it was.
There's
I
a
guess
start, a middle, an end, a plot.
it was coherent. I sort of didn't expect it to be.
It was a made-for-TV movie, which I guess that being in full screen instead of widescreen should have given that away.
I was going to ask if it was direct to video or made for TV.
This is originally aired in November 24th, 1985. Directed by Ken and Jim Wheat.
Well, I'll tell you another thing. I also didn't. I didn't expect to hear that it was made in 1985. And I would have put it at more like 87, 88. And I only say that because, and this is wild. It pains me to say this, but I feel like this was my window into Star Wars. Like, like Star Wars came out in 77. None of us were born, right? Empire was probably like,
I think it was 80.
yeah, like maybe we were conceived at that point. And then I think Jedi was 83. So like
83 was Jedi was my first movie. My parents brought me to the theater when I was 2 because my dad really wanted to see it, and they waited till late at night when I was asleep. Brought me. They watched it.
right. So
I was there.
you
Empire was
experienced
1980, by the way.
You have no memory of it.
No.
You were a tiny baby.
And asleep.
So I think this is the first thing I have a memory of. Like, I think this was on television, and my mom was like, "Oh, this Ewok movie is on. Do you want to stay up and watch it?" So, like, I just assumed that I must have been, 6 or 7.
Are you 4?
I guess I was. I guess I was younger than 4 is a long. That feels like I shouldn't remember something at age 4. But like,
I have memories from 3 and 4.
I remember watching this thing on television. I kind of am like, oh, I watched that and I wanted more. Like,
I bet. See, I bet if I had seen this movie that we just watched as a kid, I probably would have gotten into Star Wars earlier than I did. Because I mean, look, it's not good. In fact, most of the movie just seems like things are happening, but not in service of any sort of overarching plot. Like, it's all very stupid, but the look is it's very discount Star Wars, but the look is still very Star Wars. And I feel like I would have probably gotten into this when I was a kid.
I wrote some notes, but then I left them upstairs, so I don't know why I was doing that. But one of the things I wrote down was like, it seems like they didn't put a lot of thought or planning into, like, I'm not going to say what planet it was, because I know it was Endor, or more specifically the forest moon of Endor. But, like, keeping that in mind, what is that planet? Like, what is it? Because, like, for example, them bad guys were riding around on them dinosaur things. But then, like, I saw a horse, saw a bird. like, what's up with this place? In the first one, there were some goats. What are the rules of this planet? Like, what?
No, there was a snake on Dagobah, so.
There was a snake on Dagobah.
I don't remember that, but I
mean,
mean,
Luke goes to go meet up with Yoda, and there's just a bunch of normal snakes and stuff.
So do you posit that?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Do you posit that Earth animals can just be all over space?
Oh, Earth humans are all over space. Why not?
Yeah, but Earth humans have traveled all over space.
Yeah, but this is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Also, I think that just because you're a human doesn't mean you're an Earthling.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're not. Of course, they're not Earthlings, but they're humans. Just like snakes are snakes.
Like, where's Han Solo from? It's like
Des Moines, Iowa.
Corellia.
I don't know. Didn't they mention it in that Solo movie?
Corellia? He's Corellian?
So I think in the end we'll find out that people in the Star Wars universe eventually plant seeds on Earth that become humans and all our other animals. It's that whole, what do they call that? Not plantation.
Terraforming. No, or is that just plants?
That's just plants, I think, and environments. You know what I'm talking about. The theory of how we got here.
See, I was starting to wonder, was Endor Earth?
No.
Like, maybe we evolved from
Stop
Ewoks.
Maniacs.
Maybe humans evolved from
You blew it
Ewoks. And that's why this place had goats and horses and birds.
Galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to cross over into Earth. I think that's kind of the point.
I know.
But Noah did get on a ship at the end. Did he fill that up with animals first? It did look like an ark. Maybe he was on his way here.
Oh, and his name was Noah.
Oh, no.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, no.
It's all coming together.
It's all broken now.
Wilfred Brimley is like
Our Lord and Savior.
yeah, he's like,
I don't think Noah's our Lord and Savior.
he's Space Jesus.
No, nor was Noah Jesus. You guys got to go back to church.
There ain't no penguins on Noah's Ark. Says so in the Bible. Read your Bible.
Penguins was man-made by the Incredible Hulk.
Touch of the hand.
So, I would like to do some sort of plot breakdown of this movie, but this was a weird movie because, like, Wilfred Brimley had top billing, and he wasn't in a whole chunk of it. And it was funny because, like, if you go to Disney Plus, the poster that they used was, like, if you go to IMDb, it's this German poster, and that's the one that they use. And the central character is a character that's in the movie for, what, 13, 14 seconds tops?
Tops.
And then this character dies, and you never see him again. And Wilfred Brimley, nowhere to be seen on this poster.
And he dies off screen.
Yeah, he dies off screen.
They kill lots of people in this movie. The Ewoks kill some of the bad guys. The bad guys might kill a couple of Ewoks. There's killing going on.
Well, I gotta tell you this. I was looking at the IMDb trivia while we were watching the movie, and it says here, top thing listed. It says, because Wilfred Brimley did not get along with the directors Jim Wheat and Ken Wheat, his scenes were directed by production designer Joe Johnson. So,
is that the same Joe Johnson who directed The Rocketeer and Captain America?
stand by.
That guy made some good movies. Wait, Captain America, the new Captain America?
Yeah, Captain America, First Avenger.
Talk amongst yourself while
It's the same director as The Rocketeer. Another of my favorite movies. That's probably why.
Yeah, I can
First
kind of
Cap
feel
is-
that now
yeah.
that you're pointing it out.
Love that movie.
Rocketeer is great.
Oh, I love The
Great
Rocketeer. And honestly, Captain America, First Avenger might be my... It's one of my favorite MCU movies.
You
I
are
freaking love that
correct,
movie.
sir. It is the
Holy
same
cow.
Joe Johnson.
Look at that. That's amazing.
Yep.
So is
Wow.
this his directorial debut? It must
He
be.
was the production designer on this. He was not the director.
But you just said he directed all of Wilfred Brimley's scenes. Wilfred Brimley
I
was
see
the
what you're
main
saying.
actor.
Yes.
If he directed
So-
all of Wilfred Brimley's scenes, he directed most of the movie.
Yeah, this is where he cut his teeth on directing, I suppose.
So the poster that we all see actually has Wilfred Brimley and the crazy bird lady and the girl and the Ewok. That's yeah. See, from George Lucas, that's a stretch. Creator of Star Wars, from George Lucas is like, that's doing the From is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. But yes, it's coming to home video June 26th. So it looks like this was aired on TV in November and then went to video several months later.
Listen, I know that if you give me the opportunity, I'm just going to talk about Wilfred Brimley for like 10 hours straight, right? Like, we know this about me. I think he's... I think it's funny to talk about Wilfred Brimley, and that's what I will talk about. But I'm just going to say this. It was wild that he was like the hero of the movie. Like, at one point, that girl gets kidnapped by those like alien monster things, and the team to save her, the heroes of the movie, is Wilfred Brimley and two bears.
Small bears.
Yeah. Sorry, Wilfred Brimley, an Ewok, and a fast woodland monkey creature. And you know, Wilfred Brimley is like a crotchety old space hermit. Like that's the heroic team.
But
A
they
crotchety space
gave
hermit.
him the action montage. He was like, the child's been taken. We're doing this. He takes out a gun and he gets a rope.
Puts
like
on his
5
battle smock.
clips. Yeah, his battle smock.
Yeah,
Like-
that was my favorite when he literally took off an orange smock and then clipped up a white smock
With with regular plastic clips. Just
off we go.
I got to change into this to be more battle ready. You give anybody a battle montage, they are instantly able to take on 10, 20 guys single-handedly.
And then he had an action sequence. Like, we had a sword fight with his dopey stick against the creepy...
Tall guy with a sword.
Yeah.
Also, I gotta say, Wilfred Brimley was acting his heart out. Like, he was just acting his little heart out. Like you do understand that a lot of his dialogue was really a monologue because he was talking to bears and monkeys that could not respond. And he had to carry those scenes. He had to be like, oh, are they gone? I'm glad they're gone. I didn't like them anyway. Oh, you're here.
Don't worry, we'll catch up with her.
Yeah, like-
Who are you talking to?
like just acting his little heart out. And
then the little people they had in those costumes couldn't actually get over the logs. He had to keep turning around, picking them up, carrying them over. I'll help you with that. Don't worry about it.
that was our hero. That was our hero. Like, wasn't the guy from the poster, wasn't the like tall, thin guy with the laser. It was Space Hermit Wilfred Brimley.
It wasn't even Principal from Breakfast Club. They killed him off right in the beginning, too.
He was in the other movie.
And they killed all of them.
Yeah.
I feel like they didn't really need to.
And then she kept that bracelet on for a while.
Yeah.
I really thought that was going to come back into play. Like, oh, the brother wasn't dead.
Like, I mean, I guess
His
do
bracelet
they
fell
have?
off.
I wonder if those bracelets are in the first movie because they seemed like they had some sort of significance. Like, why are you wearing this bracelet that just tells you whether or not your family's dead?
You're really hoping against hope that there was like a forethought here.
Yeah, sorry for anybody listening at home. The family that crashes in this Ewok movie was all wearing, let's call them
Life alert bracelets.
life alert bracelets, biometric monitor bracelets. Like it would be as if you wore a bracelet with little lights that represented your family. And then if a light went out, you'd know that family member is dead.
And that is the only knowledge that you can glean from this bracelet,
Right.
whether or not the people who are wearing the other ones are dead.
She had 3 family members and 3 lights. And when they went out, she knew they were dead.
And I can only imagine that is just a made-for-TV family show way of not showing a death, but letting you know the character's dead.
Again, we killed people on screen in this movie. There was the guys that ended up in the water and got bubble eaten. There was like guys that got shot. The Ewoks shot like 20 of those guards.
Oh,
and like
and stabbed with spears right in the chest. And
right, yeah, like people died. There was death on screen.
Sure, there was, but again, I think this is a way of dealing with a
There were
like-
grunt bad guys and not sympathetic human family guys.
well put. It was, you know, we could see an on-screen death of a random villain. To have a little girl's family die, I think the way to show upset and grief was you see the light go out on the bracelet and the sad face on the little girl.
All right.
She took the death of her family pretty well, though.
Yeah. Well, she's got a talking bear. So.
Yeah.
I mean,
She's got Warwick Davis.
that's all
She's
you
good.
need.
Is that the only Ewok in Star Wars canon that ever learned English?
As far as I know.
I heard some of the other Ewoks in this movie speaking English.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like certainly Wicket is the most well spoken of them. But when they were springing them from that dungeon, I heard them being like, "Jump, jump, yum, 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 over here." Blah, blah, blah. Why, Wicket? You know, like it was definitely like Ewok speak mixed with English.
Right.
It was broken Ewok,
Mm-hmm,
or you know, English is a second language.
Well, good for them, you know, educate yourself.
Yeah, these Ewoks taking
They
night
speak
classes.
English better than I speak Ewok, so I'm not judging.
Have you guys ever seen that Saturday Night Live where it's like Charles Barkley is the guest and they're like showing a clip of a new Star Wars movie, you know, like I think it was around the time that Rogue One came out, so they like make a fake Star Wars movie called like the Mos Eisley 5, you know, and it's like these 5 people have to, you know, get the plans from blah blah blah. But it's funny because like the character that Charles Barkley plays, like they're all talking, you know, in this bar, and then like there's like a Chewbacca creature, and he's like, "How you understand what this dog guy's saying?" You know, he's like, "This is confusing. You speak English," and then he responds in this dog language, you know, and then like the robot beeps, and then they all laugh, and he's like, "Wait, he's talking? I thought those were just beeps." It's really funny.
So you know what else? The Ewok thing, we're making fun that the Ewoks learned English, but this is probably a reaction. We got to put this thing in context. This is a reaction to the feedback they got on the Star Wars Christmas special, where they just had a family of Wookiees talking Wookieese with no subtitles for a half an hour.
Yeah, for like 40 minutes of the movie.
And people at home made fun of them relentlessly for the next half a decade.
Yeah.
And they were like, you know what? We're not doing that again. We're going to teach these Ewoks a little bit of English because we learned our lesson.
Right,
We learned
right.
our lesson.
Yeah, just growth. They're learning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they really they put a lot of stock into how popular the Ewoks were after Return of the Jedi. This is just such a fascinating thing to exist as a Star Wars fan, and that I had never seen any of this stuff when I was a kid, like, and I never went back to go watch it when I was an adult, because all I'd ever heard about them was just that they were bad, but not fascinatingly bad like the Christmas special, their holiday special was. So I never really bothered to go back and watch any of this stuff. So this was really a quite an interesting experience of like, well, here's early expanded universe Star Wars stuff. And it's interesting seeing this as in, this always kind of seemed like to be like, this is something that they always wanted to do with Star Wars, to have it be this expanded, universe that, works with everything. And then we didn't get anything forever. Like Star Wars just stopped until the prequels came out. And then we started getting the cartoon series was the best we got. And then now we're finally in an age where we're getting live action TV shows of Star Wars, which seemed like expanding the universe like this was always kind of in their plans, in their purview at least. So
did Wilfred Brimley legit kill the franchise for 20 years? Like, this was the last thing for 15 years, right? I mean, nothing else happened as far as I know, right? I think the Droids cartoon was before this. I could be wrong. I think the Droids cartoon was real early 80s, like 83, 84. This is 86. I don't think anything else happened after this until
like 99.
Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
There might have been a video game on PlayStation or something.
Well, there was always video games. Like, there was lots of Star Wars content happening.
But I mean, with new story. Like, I know there was a couple, like, there was some
Shadows of the Empire was the first, like, big one, and that was in the 90s.
That had new story. Because, I can think of a couple Star Wars games I played that were just me playing through, like, Empire. Mm-hmm. Or, like, there was that great one in the arcade that I played all the time. But really, it was just you walking through different scenes from Empire and Return of the Jedi or whatever. Great game. Mm-hmm. That's not expanding the universe. That's just letting me play what's already there.
Right.
Let's see. I'm trying to find a list of everything Star Wars in release order.
I'm betting post 86 there's going to be a big drought. I remember there was a good Boba Fett game on PlayStation, but I don't know what year that was.
Does this mean when we end this episode we have to rank our Star Wars movies but also include Caravan of Courage and Ewoks Battle of Endor?
Oh my God.
Obviously number 1 and number 2. I mean, I'll hear arguments as to which is number 1, but
because they were movies.
They sure were.
Like, can you really say that isn't a movie? And Solo is, right? I mean, like, what's your measure? What's your marker?
They're movies. They're just terrible movies.
What was I was gonna say something and now I forget what it was.
Oh, we said that Noah comes to Earth and seeds us, but now I just remembered they already tied Earth in through ET, right?
Right.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. Like, I was genuinely serious when I was saying I wonder what the creative conversations were around this movie. Because, like, I do kind of think that a lot of it was decided out of popularity of the Ewoks, making a thing for kids, and time and budget. Because, like, when you think about it, like, all those Ewok costumes existed from Jedi. Like, I saw a lot of the same Ewoks.
Sure.
But Wicket looked noticeably worse.
I mean, I'm sure they all smelled a little funky, but like...
the face was really just not working on Wicket for some reason.
It was a little hollow in the eyes. Here's a weird thing. I looked this up.
I wrote that down. I was like, this is for children? This creature, this teddy bear with these, like, dead horror movie eyes?
So I looked this up because I assumed this was just more... Kenner made, I don't know, $14.12 cajillion on the toys, right? Mm-hmm. So they like freaking just rewrote what money could be made of, right? They're like, oh, plastic, brilliant.
It's something that I like. Just a bit of trivia that I loved hearing was that, like, there's all these characters from these Star Wars movies where their names, right? Like, you look at the cantina scene and you're like, oh, that's see, now I'm blanking on their names. Like Dr. So-and-so, the guy that gets his arm ripped off, and Hammerhead and stuff like that, right? Like there's all these background characters that like people universally know their names, and it's because they made toys of them,
Right.
Like it was literally like these toys were going good, and it was like, gotta make more Star Wars toys, turn everybody in this scene into a toy, and then it's like, well, now they all gonna have names.
Because we got to put it on the box.
Yeah.
Right. So Kenner made $1 gajillion. So I assumed they pumped these movies out just so they could pump out more action figures. But they didn't release action figures for these two series. There are these two movies. Which I looked that up and I was like, this is ridiculous.
Because I would pay so much money for a Wilfred Brimley action figure.
I tried to buy one on eBay while we were watching the movie. I was like, Noah from Return of the Ewoks, Paul needs a Wilfred Brimley. I found one that was like a custom-made one for like $45, but that's just something somebody made recently. They were like, I need a Noah action figure.
I would put it on my shelf, him with his bone staff and his battle smock.
But yeah, I really just thought this was Kenner laid out a bunch of money. They were like, yeah, pump out another movie. We'll take another couple billion in toy sales. Here you go. Oh, and the one thing we haven't said about this while Chris is trying to find his information.
I found the information. There was one more thing after this, which was the Ewoks cartoon. So this led into
cartoon.
So there was the Caravan of Courage. Where the hell did that go? It was Caravan of Courage, then this one. And then Caravan of Courage and Ewok Adventure in 84. Then in 85, you had Ewoks Battle for Endor. And then, and also in 85. So let's see, this was November 85. In September of 85, that's when the Droids cartoon aired. That went from September to November 1985. And then there was a special.
September to November of 1985.
That's right.
8 Saturday mornings. It got 8 Saturday mornings. And they did release an action figure series from that because I got those.
And there was a special in June of 1986 for the Droids as well. And then Ewoks went for 2 seasons, 2 13-episode seasons. September 7th, 1985 to November. Same thing, September to November 1985, then September to December 1986.
And then you get nothing till like the 90s?
That was it until looks like the Phantom Menace was probably the first thing back. Phantom Menace was 1999.
And
there was nothing new in between them that was considered officially canon except Shadows of the Empire.
Oh,
I want to get what, computer game?
That was a lot of things. Shadows of the Empire was a really wacky thing. It was supposed to be this multimedia situation. It was books, comics, a video game, and toys. And they were all supposedly at the time intended to be tied in as official canon, but that eventually went away.
I want to get to something about Phantom Menace in 99. Don't let me not circle back to that. Just before we leave the concept of toys.
Uh-huh.
What toys did you have, and what was your favorite one? Like what Star Wars toys did you have? Like what was the weirdest out there one where you're like, I got this one?
I mean, the weirdest toys I had has got to be I had like 3 or 4 of the Droids action figures from the Droids cartoon, and they were the same scale, so they worked with your Star Wars stuff, but they were at the same time done in the art style of that cartoon, which was kind of a very childish art style. So I had like this one action figure, I had this like big
Curvy,
pink mohawk.
whimsical, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was like a little fat green alien with a pot belly and like the beginning of dreads. I don't know what he had going on. It was weird. But that's probably the weirdest Star Wars toy that I had.
The piece of trivia that I know that I feel like is the most wild, and it's the fact that I know what this character's name is. And you know that you know the character's name because they made a toy. That's why you know the character's name. But in Empire Strikes Back, there's a guy that just runs around the corner with an ice cream maker in his hand. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, it's like when they're in Cloud City, right? And like Lando throws the alarm and he's like, everybody's got to evacuate. There's just people running through the halls of Cloud City, right? It's when It's when there's all that chaos and
ensues.
they're running through the halls of Cloud City and Boba Fett is chasing them, and there's people just running around the corner, and there's this guy where they're like, we just need you to be carrying some space thing. Somebody handed him an ice cream maker, and they're like, you're gonna run around the corner. So that character's name is Wilro Hood. And you know that because they made a toy of Wilro Hood. This dude running around with an ice cream.
Did the action
maker.
figure come with an ice cream maker?
The action figure came with an ice cream maker. It has inspired lore. Like there is, I think there's an event somewhere in the country every year called the Running of the Hoods, where people dress like Wilro Hood and they have a race with an ice cream maker in their arm.
I can't believe we haven't done that yet.
His page on Wikipedia is enormous.
Yeah, well, they made up a whole story about it where it's like, oh, the ice cream maker is a data drive from the Cloud City, blah blah blah. And
Camtono is what it's called. A Camtono.
Well, the other thing that is crazy is that like here's this thing that is, just this like goofy Star Wars lore, and just like in anything in The Mandalorian, they capitalize on it. Like they do all that stuff in The Mandalorian where they bring back Life Day and they mention, all these different like silly things from the holiday special. And we even talked about how
those
the
creatures that they were riding. Yeah,
those big lizards that were in this Ewok movie are in Mandalorian. The little what are those guys called? Ugnaught? The little Ugnaught guy rides him. The Nick Nolte Ugnaught guy. Yeah. There's that one episode. It's where those Imperial guys are trying to buy Grogu, and they slap down that ice cream maker, and you open it up, and it's got that like money in it. It's not gold, but it's like Mandalore. It's metal
Imperial. Oh, Beskar.
Yeah, but it's like. It's literally like that ice cream maker thing is a container for valuable things. I don't know.
Amazing.
So, yeah, I thought you guys would like to hear about Wilro Hood.
Yeah, this is wild, man.
But that wasn't what I was going to say about Phantom Menace. Sean, when we were talking about what we were going to say to you said, do we have the same story? Were all three of us part of this? Because I can't remember who was there when we like went to the mall.
The dress up thing at the mall. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what? That was the three of us and who? Somebody else was there.
You and me won, baby.
I know.
It was you and me. With the hotness.
And I feel like Chris just threw on a Jedi robe and had a lightsaber, right?
I don't even remember what I wore. I remember what you two wore, but I don't remember what I wore.
So to put it in a little context for viewers,
I remember taking a curb in my mom's Neon to get there on time.
In 1999, when Phantom Menace came out, it was Star Wars craze, and they had a contest at the mall for Halloween or for Star Wars costumes, and they advertised the winner, or the contest would be judged by a special effects guy from the Phantom Menace movie, like one of the special effects artists. Designers, I don't know, whatever, somebody, and that the prize was a leather bomber jacket given to the cast and crew of Star Wars. So we all put on our best Star Wars regalia and ran out there and entered.
Well, let's clarify about best Star Wars regalia, because as I recall, I think Chris was set. Like, I think there was little work that had to be done. I feel like somebody had a Jedi robe, probably from when you all dressed up to see Phantom Menace, which I didn't get to go with you. But I feel like Chris had the Jedi robe.
Did we dress up to see Phantom Menace? I know we skipped school to see Phantom Menace.
We dressed up. I got a good couple pictures of it.
Yeah, I feel like Chris had the Jedi robe and you had a lightsaber. I feel like you were sort of Obi-Wan style or just like general Jedi style.
Yeah, that tracks.
And then I think at that point we had seen Phantom Menace and it was like, we are going to dress Sean like Darth Maul. And I remember we spent a lot of time painting you. And when I say painting, I don't think we knew what we were doing. Like, I feel like we were using house paint or like
we sure as hell were.
We were using house
should
paint.
Not have been using, and like gluing horns to your head with like something we should not have been gluing horns to your head.
I think that's why I won.
He knew exactly what we were doing because other people weren't willing to use it. At a certain point, he said, "This is dangerous, but I need somebody to do this." And other people in the room were like, I'm not going to do this to you. And I stepped the fuck up.
Well, I did too. I remember I was helping to paint your head and glue horns to your head because we spent so much meticulous time making you look like Darth Maul that then I was like, what am I going to be? And like, I remember there was just some friggin' like gross furry pelt lying around, and I picked it up and I wrapped myself in it, and I was like, I'm an Ewok. And so
a bunch of sheepskins or something.
Like, we went to the mall with Sean meticulously painted like Darth Maul with like extreme detail and paint that he should not have been using, and Chris was Jedi'd out, and then like I was just wrapped in a gross fur thing, and like we
Didn't
all
you
went
have
up there.
sunglasses on too. I feel like you were
maybe I don't know. Yeah, to like hide my eyes. But we went up there, and like Sean got first, and there was somebody who was Princess Amidala. Like she didn't come with us, but somebody had also done the hard work of painting their face and doing the makeup and jewelry, and that she won second. And then I don't know if they just thought I was entertaining or what it was, but as an Ewok, I got third place, and I think I went home with a Darth Maul cutout. It was a Jar Jar Binks stand-up. It was a Jar Jar Binks cutout. I had Jar Jar Binks in the corner of my room for couple years.
I know why I won, because the guy came around. He was asking people about their costumes, and he got to me. He goes, "How did you get the horns to stick to your head?" And I was like, "Carpenter's glue." He was the look on his face was just like, "That's not okay." And it didn't come off. I ripped them off, and they took all my skin, and there was just bloody spots on my head. You shave your head, you put Carpenter's glue with a bunch of horns on it, you're losing your scalp. That's how that works.
Yeah, eventually I got the award at the doilies for most willing to endanger a friend.
Oh, yeah. When no one else will use Carpenter's glue on your head, you call Chris Randazzo. He apparently doesn't give a damn. Or he gives too many damns. Depends on how you look at it.
It's the dedication to Star Wars.
Oh, one last thing about the movie that we were supposed to be talking about that we barely talked about.
Oh, I think we've said plenty.
I think we've said enough. One more thing I'll point out. It's weird. I said it and mentioned it during. It's weird that the bad guys have a bunch of laser guns but live in a castle, and like their carts are made out of bones, and they can't figure out what a battery's for.
I didn't understand.
But they have 50 laser guns.
Maybe like they were part of some kind of intergalactic arms deal, like
what did they trade for the laser guns?
I don't know.
And why didn't the people with the laser guns just kill them and take whatever they wanted?
Bone cudgels? I'm not sure.
that entire villain group was ridiculous. Their costume designs were just terrible.
Their face looked like catcher's mitts.
Yeah, they were not good, but they didn't make much sense. Like, where did this wizard woman come from that could transform? She wore a ring that let her transform into a bird, but could also turn you into stone or a tree if somebody throws a raspberry at it.
I laughed so hard when that one, that he was like the main evil, ugly dude, and he came in with like a scaly zombie face, and then he pulls the zombie face off. And he's got another
he had this
scaly zombie face,
scary helmet, and he pulls it off, and it's just like, what did you have the helmet on for?
I mean, that must have been intended to be funny, right? Like somebody must have thought that was hilarious. That he like had this scaly, gross zombie face, and he takes it off, and there's another identical face underneath of it.
Absolutely amazing. That was nuts. But yeah, their weaponry was ridiculous. They weren't intelligent, and they didn't seem to even know what they were after. And if Wilfred Brimley's been sitting on this planet for 30 years or something, and they haven't been able to just find this enormous ship in the woods for all this time.
That was literally minutes away.
Yeah.
The Ewoks ran there. It wasn't days later. Like when they escape from the castle, they run. The bad guys aren't far behind them on horses, and all of a sudden they're there. So 2-3 miles from the castle is a giant ship. They just
couldn't find it, but they didn't know what they were after. They wanted power.
Well, the movie had a lot of problems, and not the least of which were pacing and logic. And I think parts of it there was a glimmer of something. Like I kept joking the whole time when your daughter was watching it and commenting on Wilfred Brimley and his shaggy beard and his big hair and everything like that. And I was like, see, kids love Wilfred Brimley. But like, I do think maybe they had the glimmer of something with like a weird old hermit, like weird old space hermit who seemed like he didn't care about kids, but like secretly cared about kids, right? Like I could see where they were going with this, with like a family movie.
I can see where their outline got greenlit.
Yeah, sure. And something about the idea of the bad guys too seemed interesting, right? Because like they kept they were trying to get this, they had some kind of power cell thing from the ship, and it seemed like they didn't know what it was for, just that it was powerful. Like, they kept saying things like, unlock the power. And I got the idea that they must be some sort of primitive race. You're right. Most of it, they were living in a castle. They made things out of bones. Like, they were some primitive group, just like the Ewoks, but that somehow knew that this was the key to technology and weapons and space travel. And, like, they didn't really know what that meant, just that they wanted the power. So I thought the idea of that was interesting. But then Sean's absolutely right. They're shooting laser guns. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know?
And none of them ever thought to just ask.
Like, what is the power?
Or just like, how did they find out about it in the first place? The power. And second off, like, why did they just immediately go to, we're going to take it by force, instead of being like, well, we've been at this for a number of years. Maybe we should just talk to this guy and find out what it is. And ask if we can have some.
Again, I got the impression that they were primitive and evil and dumb. That like Wilfred Brimley's buddy, you know, his buddy who, when they were young, they cut up the galaxy together.
Yep.
I'd love to see that movie.
I want to see that show.
Like, instead of Han and Lando, I want to see young Wilfred Brimley and the other guy like rolling around the galaxy playing sabacc at, you know, at space bars. And
I think we need to make this movie.
Running
I think we're gonna get
Spice.
sued a lot.
or maybe that should be like a Star Wars short of like Wilfred Brimley and the other guy and like Han and Lando around the card table at, you know, late at night. But I got the idea that Wilfred Brimley's buddy got captured by those guys, and that it was just like, what's this? That's a power cell. Well, what's it do? It, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think it was just they were torturing a captive, and then they were like, we need the power. Like, it was out of a place of like greed and being uninformed.
Yeah, so that all checks out with two big more logic problems. Number one, his buddy didn't have a power cell. So it would have just been his word, him saying power cell.
Oh, I assumed that since they didn't have the crystals or whatever, that he left with that container.
Oh, with the
but
broken
the
one?
container was useless.
Okay.
That it had
So he
no
might have had a broken
power.
one.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other problem is none of them spoke English. Oh, no, they did.
Yeah, they did.
But not all the time. Because most of the time we couldn't understand what they were saying. The main bad guy only spoke English to the little girl.
Oh, that's true too. I suppose I
guess Wilfred Brimley's friend taught them all English.
or that witch taught them English.
Who taught the witch English?
The
Who
witch
taught
was,
anyone in space English?
The witch was very much unexplained.
She didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And why did she go back to that guy when she had all the power in the ring and he was just going to keep taking it from her?
Oh, yeah,
Just
sure.
stop going back there.
Yeah, he locked her in a dungeon. She
Why
could have flown
exactly
off.
was this guy the guy in charge? Why didn't anyone overthrow him at any point? He didn't seem more powerful than anybody else, especially not the witch.
Especially not the witch.
Yeah. What was the deal?
She must have been especially stupid to not be able to take power, like take control of the situation. She had a magic ring. It let her turn into other people and a horse and what else and a bird. Like,
Yeah.
but just take over.
And the fact that the ring turned the evil guy into stone meant that she probably could have done that at any point.
Yeah. What was she doing?
I don't know.
How did she get there? Where did she get that ring?
Maybe she wanted the power too.
And
I'm
does
not
Star
sure.
Wars recognize magic? Or are we just saying this was the Force? Was
Well,
she a Sith?
Star Wars recognizes magic as versions of the Force that are, I guess, channeled differently. Like they're the witches of Dathomir, who use the Force for their magic, but the Force is effectively the source of that magic. What I'm interested in with
question answered.
Willow was 1988, and there was a lot of similarities, I thought, between this movie and Willow. Like, just kind of a general tone, a general vibe of, like, the witch, and I just kind of got a lot of Willow vibes out of it. And,
well, doesn't the witch turn into a bird in Willow?
I think she does.
I think so, too, yeah.
Right. The good witch definitely turns into a bird at one point. She turns into a goat and a bird and a walrus. A couple other things.
So what was the witch's name? She was...
Bad Morta.
No, not in Willow.
In this thing?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Bird lady.
Who would have said her name? She never introduced
Cheryl?
herself. Cheryl?
Charal.
Her name was Cheryl.
Her name was Debbie. Debbie the Witch.
Cheryl the Witch. Oh, yeah. Charal.
Yeah.
Cheryl.
All right. I need to look up the lore around this character.
Oh, wait. What was the main bad guy, the big awful bad guy's name? Was it Tarak?
Sure.
Holy cow, she's supposed to be a witch of Dathomir. According to Wikipedia, Cheryl was a force-wielding night sister who turned her back on the sisterhood and left her homeworld of Dathomir. What the hell?
Sorry, I just got to say this: the big ugly main bad guy was the giant in Twin Peaks. The giant in Twin Peaks and Lurch in the Addams Family movies.
All right.
Has this character ever been reutilized? Like,
Well, she's trapped as a bird as of the end of this.
there's a bunch of backstory. This is crazy. Yeah, they've definitely built some lore around this character too. But yeah, she was a freaking night sister. Who knew? That's nuts.
Yeah,
I'm just absolutely just wow.
The movie would have been a little more watchable, I think, if the stuff in the hut in the forest where it was just Wilfred Brimley and the children, if that had been intercut with some other stuff, like I think maybe just some editing changes would have helped the movie. I mean, and I'm not saying it would have done wonders, but
Right.
I think it would have helped make it more watchable.
I think a lot of the movies, one of my comments, and I notice it a lot when I'm watching older movies, is just it was a lot of establishing shots, like 3 or 4 in a row of like just the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a different shot of the woods. Here's some more of the woods. I know where we are now. I got it in the first one, which I don't even think you need these things. But I feel like they were just filling time in these TV movies. They were like, let's fill 30 seconds with just showing the woods.
Well, and I don't want to say that this is the reason why, but there probably was a little bit of a change in that mentality when people started filming on digital, because film is expensive. And if you took the time to film it, you know what I mean? It was like, we paid for this. We paid for this shot, whereas digital, it doesn't matter how long the camera's running,
Right.
So I just feel like sometimes when you see that in older movies, it's because it's like, well, we paid for it.
Right. I assume they were just trying to fill time. And it's probably the switch to digital, but you don't really see it now. So now when I watch these older movies, it kind of smacks me in the face a little bit, especially when they do 2 or 3 in a row that don't do anything new. Like if it's one shot and you're showing a house, it's like, all right, I get it. Telling me where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. But like literally they gave us like, they were playing the music and then they gave us like an outside woods night shot. And they were like, it's nighttime in the woods. And then they gave us a morning wood shot. And then they gave us a different morning wood shot. And then a shot of the stream. And then a shot of the house with them walking out. It was like, why do we have all these shots? What is happening? I know where we are. We didn't change location.
Well, the Tarak was a member of it was like a group of pirates that crash landed on Endor, and that they built they were stranded there, and so they built the castle. So I believe
If they were pirates that crashed there, then they know what a battery is used for.
Yep.
Like, did they fly on a ship powered by magic and happy thoughts?
Oh, hang on. I feel like we haven't addressed the biggest glaring issue with this movie, which is at the time we meet the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi, our first exposure to Ewoks is that they are primitive forest bears that try to eat our heroes, and that we have the comedic moment of 3PO, them meeting a robot for the first time, and 3PO being a golden god, and using their dialect to tell him that they are that they are to be revered and respected, right? So great, that sets us on the same page as these little critters, and we understand why we join forces with them. But make no mistake, the Ewoks are hungry, carnivorous creatures. And when at the end of Jedi, when that one Ewok is playing the drums on all the stormtrooper helmets, they ate those stormtroopers. I don't know if they just ate the corpses or if they, captured some guys and cooked them up and fried them, but they ate them, right? So why weren't these Ewoks eating the little girl?
I have it.
Or Wilfred Brimley?
I have it.
Right? Well, but here's what I'll say. If Return of the Jedi happened first and then these movies happened, which I thought they did, I think it makes sense. It's been established. Ewoks have met humans. They have a mutual respect. But if these came first, why do the Ewoks talk and not talk in Return of the Jedi?
But they had to, because we see Endor at the end of this. When the ship's flying away, you see Endor. And that gets blown up. No, that doesn't get blown up.
No, the Death Star gets blown up.
Death Star.
I mean, the Death Star would have rained shrapnel down upon this whole
I was going to say, if these happen first...
These
canonically...
According to the internet, they do.
Well, back when there was official canon for these things, these were listed in the previous StarWars.com expanded universe section as taking place shortly before Return of the Jedi.
So watch. It's real easy. Wilfred Brimley and the girl leave. Ewoks are not cannibals, right? They leave. Everybody's looking around. There's a lot of dead bodies on the ground from all those guys they just killed, right? Those weird, I don't know what species those things are, but they eat them, right? They just got chased. What the bad guys? They killed a bunch of them.
No, I know what you're saying. You're relating the Ewoks to the Brazilian soccer team?
Well, those bad guys just took them out of their homes and burned down their village. So they got no more farmland or whatever. I don't know if they were farmers or hunter-gatherers, but whatever that is, it's gone. So they're hungry. There's dead bodies. They eat them. They're delicious.
So they ate them out of necessity and not out of spite.
But it was awesome. So then, so then they eat that little white fast guy.
Right, because he's not in Return of the Jedi.
Because he's not in Return of the Jedi. And they eat all of those. If there's more of those guys on the planet, they eat them all. And they are delicious. And they're like, you know who we should have eaten? Wilfred Brimley. I'll bet you that guy was the best tasting one of all of them.
He would have been like, I don't taste delicious. You don't want me, I'll give you diabetes. Get some oatmeal.
So when those other humans showed up, those Ewoks were ready. They were like, yo, we gotta get them. We gotta eat them.
Yeah, that's my big complaint.
I just solved it. I just solved it. That's the answer.
Okay. I'm on board with it.
Yeah, that works for me. I'm in. Sold. Well, right. I think we've talked about this for long enough.
This might be the longest podcast ever devoted to the Ewok movie.
Yeah, I actually think we've covered most of the movie.
Yeah, I feel confident that we've done the Lord's work here today.
Agreed. Oh, we didn't talk about that dragon.
Yeah, there was a dragon.
There was a dragon. It was pretty neat.
We talked about this movie for an hour. Didn't even bring up a dragon.
Yeah. He built a really sturdy hang glider in a cave.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a.
And then he dropped a rock on the dragon so that the dragon would drop the little girl.
His level of forethought and planning paralleled that of the writers of this movie.
Yeah.
And then the dragon couldn't vertically land or take off, despite the obvious ability to do so with giant wings. So he was like, can't land. Gotta go.
But yeah, beyond that, I think we've covered it all.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess it is time for us to pick our next movie. Oh, what do you think? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Should people watch this?
No.
I can't imagine telling someone with a straight face, you should go watch this movie.
You should spend your time on this.
I mean, if you've got Star Wars tattoos all over your body and a room in your house devoted to it, sure. Then why haven't you seen this yet? But short of that, no,
I was on
think
the
it's a pass.
IMDb page. Was it the IMDb page? I was somewhere looking up Ewok stuff, and I stumbled upon an entire article of how this is an underrated classic. It's the best Star Wars movie you've never seen, and I don't know where some people come from.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if
Well,
you've
it could have been
seen
worse.
every Star Wars
Yeah.
movie except for this, the first one, and the holiday special, then sure, this might be the best one you've never seen.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think the only Star Wars content I haven't seen the Young Jedi Adventures, because that's like a super baby kid show, and I don't really feel like spending my time on that. I never saw the Droids or Ewoks cartoons. I hadn't seen the previous Ewoks movie. So, I don't know if the completionist in me deems that worth my time. I don't think so, but anyways, we should start picking out what we're going to...
So how are we ranking them? Attack of the Clones. Revenge of the
boy.
Sith.
Well, I haven't seen the other Ewoks movie yet, so I can't do a full
Yeah.
series ranking. I just can't. I'm not fully informed yet.
Keeping that number one spot warm for it, though.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely going to make the top of the list.
All right, next time we rank them all.
All right, I'll try to
Does that
find
mean next time
time.
we get to E, we have to do the other Ewoks movie?
Maybe.
I'll try to find time to watch the other Ewoks movie before then, so we can do a proper Star Wars ranking.
I won't.
It'll be great. All right, so that means we're up to the letter F.
Fuck yourself.
Who wants to go first?
Well, I'm going to go with FX. And because I brought it up earlier, and the two of you looked at me like I had two heads.
Yeah, I've never seen this movie.
I think we should do FX2.
No, I won't understand it if I haven't seen FX1.
I think you will.
Okay.
FX2?
I think FX2 is my serve up. I believe, and I haven't seen these movies in 20, 30 years. I believe FX2 is everything great about FX1, but more of it. And I believe that you don't need to see FX1 to see FX2. It's just it's a whole new plot with the same two characters, Brian Dennehy and the other main guy.
You know how I roll. I mean, I can't say the same for Chris, but if you tell me something number 2, I'm going to watch
number 1.
first.
If I remember correctly, and again, I'm reaching way back here, number 1 isn't as good as number 2. I remember watching 2 over and over when I was a kid. Number 1 just had one great line right at the end. I mean, it's a great line. Or at least when I was a kid, I thought it was. I was like, this is the greatest line there ever was. But I think that's all it had. A lot of build up for that one moment. So I'm going to go FX2.
Okay, FX2.
Well, I would tell you my movie, but I can't because the first rule of my movie is that you're not allowed to talk about it.
Oh, boy,
And the
okay.
second rule of my movie is that you're not allowed to talk
It's
about
going to be
it.
a very quiet podcast if we go with Paul's choice.
All right. That's very interesting because my movie is...
Wait, it's really not. That's
No,
not
it's-
my pick.
Oh, it's not?
No, do you want it to be?
I don't know. I'm
See,
fine.
here's
I
what
can
I
sit
thought.
here and talk about that movie.
Here's
or
what-
not
I haven't
talk
seen
about
it in a
Here's-
long time, and it's similar to the movie that I want to
Wait,
pick.
this was going to be the joke. I wanted to say that, and then I thought you guys would go, so your movie's Fight Club.
You're
and
not
then
supposed to say it.
And then I was going to go. And I was going to go,
just
no.
told us the rules.
And then I was going to go, no, my movie's 50 Shades of Grey. You're not allowed to talk about it because all the whips and bondage. And then I was going to go, Happy Valentine's Day.
You're going to make us watch 50 Shades of Grey?
No, absolutely not. That's not my pick either.
I just got through Christmas porn. You're going to make me watch 50 Shades of Grey with you two assholes? I don't think so.
We're totally inviting your mom for that one.
Yo, I think that Madame Web thing is a weird... I think it's a weird Valentine's Day marketing thing because I think they think guys are going to see it because it's a Spider-Man thing and girls are going to want to see it because it's the girl from 50 Shades of Grey.
Sony's
I don't
not,
think anyone's going to see it.
Sony's not getting one more dime from me. Not one more dime. I'm boycotting all their crap. I'm hoping they lose their license because they just can't pump them out anymore. That last one was... Not only was it a piece of shit
Which one, Morbius?
Yeah, not only was it a piece of shit, but that last scene, their tag one where Michael Keaton shows up.
Oh boy,
that just didn't make
that was a mess.
Any fucking sense, and just made me want to gouge out my eyes with a fork. Like it was a bad but not horrific. People give it too much grief. I think it was just bad, not horrific. And then that last fucking scene, I was like, what the fuck was that? What sense does this make? You broke all the rules. None of this makes any sense. Hate it.
Wait, but let me tell you what I think is going to happen with this.
Hate it!
Let me tell you what I think is going to happen with this Madam Web movie. I think there's going to be couples where the guy goes, "Can we see this movie? It's like a Spider-Man thing." And I think the girl's going to go, "Oh, I want to see that. It's got the girl from 50 Shades of Grey in it." And then the guy's going to go, "What's 50 Shades of Grey?" And then she's going to go, "Let's watch it with me." And then guys aren't going to be able to comprehend why she's in this movie with her clothes on. And they're going to go, "Show us your boobs." Like right there in the theater. That's my prediction about Madam Web.
Now I got to go see this movie and just yell, "Show me your boobs." I'm not going to pay for that ticket. I'll pay for a different ticket so Sony doesn't get my money.
Okay, wait. So, hang on. So now I'm conflicted. So
I'm not watching 50 Shades of Grey.
No, I'm not. 50 Shades of Grey is not my pick. But here's the thing. So look. I've mapped out the whole alphabet here, right? Here's my whole picks for the rest of the alphabet. So I could tell you that I wrote down Fight Club. But then what happened was I started watching these Ernest movies. And then I was like I genuinely feel like Jim Varney is like the greatest actor ever. And then I was like, maybe it'd be cool to see a Jim Varney movie that's not an Ernest movie. So then I started looking, and there's some movies. There's Beverly Hillbillies, which that's great casting.
Right.
Apparently he was in something called Snowboard Academy. I kind of want to see that. But he was in a movie in the 80s called Fast Food. And I don't know if it's good or bad. I do know that it's 2 Fs, so if we were playing categories, I'd get double points for this. We're not playing categories. He's not top billing, but he is on the poster. So should my pick be Fast Food or should my pick be Fight Club?
This is entirely up to you.
I don't know if Fast Food will be good. I also was like, maybe you can't find it. So then I looked for it, and it's on YouTube for free.
Wow, the poster is...
They got 2 different posters.
I don't see one with Jim Varney unless that's him with the giant burger in his mouth.
I think that is him with the giant burger.
I think that's him.
On the other poster, he's dressed up like a cowboy. And it's got the judge from Caddyshack. Can't remember that actor's name.
All right, my pick will be the good movie. My pick is going to be Fight Club, and I will watch this fast food thing and give you a report about it.
All right, fast food.
I'm probably going to watch Fast Food.
No, Fight Club.
Fight Club. Got it.
Sean's pick is FX. My pick is Fight Club.
Okay, well, I think the Fight Club pick is super interesting because it's really similar to the pick that I wanted to pose. It comes from the school of movies that a lot of people took the wrong lessons from and idolized the wrong person. I haven't seen this one since high school, and I'm very curious how it holds up. And that would be Falling Down.
Oh, yeah.
I remember thinking it was a very interesting movie, and I remember laughing at the fast food scene.
Now you're going to die with that stupid little hat on. How does that feel?
And, I didn't realize until recently that this is one of those movies that there are a lot of people who they thought Michael Douglas was the good guy. Kind of similar to how people think that Tyler Durden, he's the good guy. He's who you should be trying to be like. Mm-hmm. And just there are a lot of people out there who thought that Homelander was the good guy.
Right.
And I never really, I haven't thought about this movie in forever. And then it recently came up in this list of movies that people seem to fundamentally misunderstand the message of, and I was like, man, that's an interesting pick. I would like to see what that looks like through modern eyes.
I don't think that I've ever misunderstood the message of it, but I will say that as I've gotten older, I unfortunately have identified with it sometimes, sometimes feeling bad about that.
Well, there we go.
I think I try real hard not to see the messages in movies. Stop trying to talk to me.
Falling Down, FX2, or Fight Club?
Oh my god! We got a 3-way tie again. You think Greg's asleep?
Better not be.
Oh, the Flyers game didn't end that long ago. He's probably still up.
And our standby designated voter says...
Wow, this is taking longer than usual. I guess we've really come up with some tough decisions here.
I think these are good picks.
Yeah, I'd be genuinely interested in watching any of these.
You know, it's funny. I can remember a lot of the great scenes from Falling Down, but it's a whole movie, and I really can't remember the connective tissue.
I remember it. I remember it well.
I don't remember much
Like
of
the
that.
big scenes, the scene on the golf course, the scene
Wow.
FX2, okay.
Wild.
The
Not
dark
what I-
horse.
All right.
Yeah.
So there's our pick. FX2 is our next movie. There's your homework, everybody. And that is our show. A Theater Near You is a part of the Geekade Podcast Network. And if you'd like to get in touch with us to share your comments, movie suggestions, or whatever, you can send us an email at mail@geekade.com. We can also be found on most social media outlets and the official Geekade Discord server, all of which can be found in our show notes. If you'd like early access to this podcast and several others on the Geekade Podcast Network, check out the Geekade Patreon, linked to in the show notes. It helps keep this show running and our site shiny and clean. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time in a theater near you.
Yum yum, jub jub. I've gained a taste for human flesh.
Stay safe out there. Eat your oatmeal, folks.
Diabetes.